Hello and welcome to Allegedly Speaking. This is Allegedly Dave. Tonight I want to be talking about courage. In these shows of Allegedly Speaking, I kind of choose a topic and reveal its hidden side, and I want to talk about courage tonight and discuss what's going on around the world. So here in Turkey, which is where I am at the moment, and if you can hear noise and a bit of a wind noise from behind me, it's because the air conditioning's on because it's bloody hot here. So apologies for that. Here in Turkey, we're seeing the protests because, well, essentially we're seeing a people pushed too far, and the same is occurring in many places around the world. The protests in Turkey basically started off over plans to redevelop a very popular park, but then it soon got out of hand. In Brazil, the protest there started because the government decided to hike up bus fares and public transport fares. So I picked out a story about Brazil. This is from Sao Paulo. Leaders in Brazil's two largest cities said yesterday that they reversed an increase in bus and subway fares that ignited the anti-government protests that have spread across the nation in the past week. Many people doubted the move would quiet the demonstrations, which have moved well beyond the outrage over fare hikes into communal cries against poor public services in Latin America's biggest nation. It's not really about the price anymore, said Camila Sena, an 18-year-old university student, at a protest in Rio de Janeiro's sister city of Niterói. People are so disgusted with the system, so fed up now, we're demanding change. Sena added that seeing money poured into soccer stadiums for the current Confederations Cup and next year's World Cup only added fuel to people's anger. It's not that we're against the World Cup, not at all. It will bring good things for Brazil. It's just that we're against the corruption that the World Cup has become an excuse for, she said. At a press conference in Sao Paulo to announce the reversal of the public transport fare hike, Sao Paulo's mayor, Fernando Haddad, said it will represent a big sacrifice and we will have to reduce investments in other areas. He didn't give details on what other cuts would occur. Rio de Janeiro's mayor, Eduardo Perez, also confirmed the fare increase would be rescinded in that city. Scattered street demonstrations continued in some parts of Brazil, including Niterói, as protesters demand improvements in public services they receive in exchange for high taxes and rising prices. So, what we're seeing here, just like in Turkey, where the government basically said, "Oh no, we're going to put the redevelopment plans on hold until the courts will rule on it," which we all know is a bit of a joke, really. The Brazilian government basically said, "Oh no, we're going to reverse the transport fare hikes." So the point is, it's too late. The genie is out of the bottle. It's not about fare hikes or park redevelopment plans. These are the last straw. It's a culmination of hundreds of abuses and injustices and government criminality. The same thing is happening in England, but we don't seem to be able to see it. Collectively, we don't seem to be able to see that there's anything worth taking action over. But let's maybe just have a look at what's occurring in our own country. We are the most surveilled people in the entire world. There's a camera, and I think there's more now, but I think there's a camera for every 15 of us. There's a camera. That's staggering, and I think really, that's the figures we're allowed to have. I'm sure there's a lot more out there. It's coming up to there's a camera for every man, woman, and child in this country. Since 1990, 1,500 people have died, murdered, in police custody. some of them have been execution style, and there have been no repercussions whatsoever from the police. And I mentioned this before when I spoke about and I've forgotten the name now, Ian Tomlinson, being killed in broad daylight in front of hundreds of witnesses with video of the event, and yet the police officer involved just walked away with no repercussions whatsoever. Even though he was, I believe he was convicted of unlawful killing or something like that, but yet no repercussions whatsoever. In this country now, there is detention without charge. There are secret courts going on. The right to protest has been removed from us, and you can look this up. It's in the Serious and Organised Crime and Police Act 2005. We've lost the right to say anything about what's happening to us and to protest against it. We've seen agent provocateurs coming out in every protest that has occurred over recent years. We've seen these agent provocateurs, police, undercover police, pretending to be protesters. They're solely to whip up violence, to start destroying property, it's very badly done. The cops are there dressed up in identical clothes, all with masks across their face, and they're always there trying to smash windows. Burn police cars up and whatever. But we've spotted them. We can see them, and that sort of leads very nicely into the current scandal, the undercover police infiltration of any group that might want to stand up and say, "Hang on a second, there's something wrong here." Whenever there's a group of people, it seems the police must get their nose in there and try and subvert it, and in a lot of cases lead these groups into actions that will get them nicked, basically. So it's kind of endemic. This is a place that we never thought we'd ever get to. I'm missing out this thing here that there is a massive institutionalized paedophile class now. Well, I say now, I think they've pretty much always existed. It includes top people in media, judges, high-ranking police, politicians, and they're preying on hundreds of thousands of our children who disappear without a trace every year. I think it's something like somewhere close to 400,000. Perhaps that's I think I'm quoting the American figures, but between America, Canada, and this country, it's 1 million children disappear without a trace every year. Without a trace, that if you sit down and think about it, that is impossible. How can that be? How can 1 million people disappear? This isn't by accident. This isn't kids running away. This is some institutionalized, well-organized machine that preys on children. And now that a small fraction of this is coming out, we're seeing that the machinery of government and law and just stepping in and covering it up and becoming a barrier to uncovering this. Yes, of course, 1 or 2 sacrificial lambs are going to be held up and punished, but I doubt that. And I say I doubt, where they're not actually punished very much. We're looking at Stuart Hall here, where he gets basically a slap on the wrist. I think he's in his 80s now. He's going to get a slap on the wrist. A few, maybe I can't remember what it was. It was a few months in prison, which I can tell you is not going to be your run-of-the-mill prison. And he'll be out probably in a month with so-called good behaviour. And I think I posted this on Facebook that the judge that gave such a lenient sentence was basically convicted of sexual crimes himself. So this is one hand covering the other. So I mean, can't we see this? Can't we as a nation step back and see the big picture at this point? I picked up this other statistic. Well, it's more than statistics actually. It's a whole article based on research over the last 5 years, where it's come out that more than 4,000 police officers were disciplined for criminal behaviour in the last 5 years. This includes like an inspector who was sacked after being arrested for shoplifting, and a PC who resigned after installing a camera in a lady's toilet. You know, there was a sergeant in Lancashire who was sacked after he was discovered with 3 submachine guns and ammunition. And there was a colleague of his from the same force who resigned after being caught drug trafficking. The numbers of police officers who were found guilty of misconduct has basically shot up by 56%, from 559 in 2008 to 873 in 2012. You know, in total, 4,115 officers were disciplined over criminal behaviour, of which 643 were dismissed or forced to resign. This is the thing, you know. These bureaucrats, these house slaves, and I've mentioned this before. How we have because we're all slaves in this system. We have some slaves who are more equal than others. Those are the house slaves. They're the ones who get preferential treatment. They're the ones who get better food, you know, and that sort of thing. But their job is to keep the rest of the slaves down, and these are the house slaves. And this, what we're seeing is them exercising their perks for being house slaves, for keeping the rest of us down. So these are the only people who, when faced with criminal charges, are allowed to just simply resign, and all of a sudden the charges go away. How does that work for the rest of us? I don't think that works the same way for the rest of us. You know, we can't just simply say, "Okay, no, I won't go. I won't be in that job anymore if now that I've been caught committing a crime." No, it doesn't work for us, but it works for politicians and police officers. Doesn't matter what they've done, pretty much. I believe. I think it's Harwood, the police officers police officer in the Ian Tomlinson case. It was revealed that he, in fact, was. I think he did something else criminal in the past. He resigned and then got another job in another police force. So you can commit a crime, resign to get away from it, and then resume your job somewhere else, and that's fine. More than 100 of these people who were dismissed and forced to resign over criminal behaviour were at the rank of inspector or higher, and some of these offences are extremely serious. There was a PC in South Yorkshire who was sacked for assaulting a partner, and 2 others who resigned after being arrested for perverting the course of justice. This is their job, by the way. And we know that as I just said, the punishment handed out to these officers are laughable. Most of them are let off with written warnings, for offences that the public would deem totally unacceptable. We watched the film 1984. Most of us watched that and thought, in the back of our minds, we thought, wow, lucky we don't live in that sort of world. I'm sorry, but we do. We've actually surpassed 1984. This world is now beyond that point. When are we going to realise that? When you factor in the seriously poor crime detection rate of the police and the incidence of these police officers covering each other's arses, and the number of cases of wrongdoing that have been just basically ignored, covered up, or a pretend investigation is performed, and receiving the standard finding that the officer did his job correctly, then I would say that the decent, honest behaviour that we kind of expect of the police force is not representative of today's police. We are beyond 1984. In other countries, this behaviour has been spotted, and people are taking action. Thing is, here in the UK, the agenda is much slower than anywhere else. It's the boiling frog syndrome. You can't just throw a live frog into boiling water. You have to put the frog in nice warm water and very slowly and turn up the heat. And before long, the frog is boiled to death without noticing. And that's the situation we're in the UK. The agenda is moving very slowly here, but moving a lot faster everywhere else. And perhaps that's why we're not noticing it. It's nonetheless, it's been steady and relentless. It is slow, but it has been relentless. They've spent many decades getting us addicted to benefits and healthcare, and obviously their money. And now that the majority of us are dependent on these things, they're very, very deliberately withdrawing it from us. And more than that, they're jeering at us and they're goading us. The system is like a bully that's knocked us down and stolen our lunch money. Is now pissing on our heads and laughing, saying, "What are you going to do about it?" and this is what I've seen in Turkey as well. The president Erdogan basically jeering at the people by attacking their hero Ataturk, and calling him a drunk. As I said, this guy, and we're not used to having heroes, but this guy Ataturk was a national hero. The people loved him, and for a politician to just make fun of this guy is one of the deepest insults, I think. So it seems like the governments around the world are trying to provoke a reaction in their people. Obviously, this is a coordinated agenda around the world. Essentially, I think they want to get the whole world up in arms and all rioting at the same time, so that they can justify bringing in their new world order and one world army, so that for the sake of security for the whole world, we need to bring in this one world army to quash this this dissent and this danger to the public. Never mind that it's actually the public that want the change in the first place. The reason why I think the agenda is happening much slower in the UK is because I believe the UK is special, in as much as it is the seat and the heart of this control mechanism. It was propagated around the world by the British Empire, which never really left. It's still alive and well today. It's just that it's been cloaked in secrecy. But this is the seat of all this, and if we manage to get it right in the UK, I believe that it will propagate across the world, because of this network, of this being the centre of the spider's web. You see, Iceland found their solution, but Iceland is a very isolated island, and it has been effectively been ostracized, and isolated by the media, who won't talk about it. They won't mention what's happened in Iceland, because they don't want us to know that there is a solution available. They don't want us to know that we could, if we wanted, to just end the government. Say, nope, you're not in power anymore. The people are taking over, and we're going to elect our own government. We're going to change our constitution, rewrite our constitution for to make sure this sort of thing doesn't happen again. But I don't think Iceland's solution will work for us. We have to find our own solution. And when we do find our Iceland solution, I believe it will change the world. So a choice is being presented to us right now. We have to actually step back, and there's no point in saying we have to step back and see this, because this is so blatant now. This is so obvious that if you can't see it, it's because you're not looking. You don't want to see it. It's the government. These people who call themselves our leaders. Well, hang on, they're not our leaders. They're our public servants. They're supposed to be looking out for us, because they're supposed to understand what we're going through. But wait a second. These people aren't the same as us. They're all multi-millionaires. They don't know what our life is like. So how are they saying that they know what's best for us? Well, if you look at it objectively, you can see how where their justification of knowing what's best for us is because they are the ruling class, or at least in actual fact they're the lackeys of the ruling class. But their justification is the same as the master over the slaves. That's their justification. Well, we're the masters, so we know what's best for you slaves. So this choice is presented to us. We can go on letting these people decide how our lives should be, and how is that working out for us at this point? How has your life rolled out over the last 5 years? Has it got better, or has it got worse? We now know that most of the people listening to me have known for a long time that this has been a slow, controlled demolition of the financial and the slow demolition of our society. We again were baited with this this wonderful society where we've got a a system in place that will take care of us if we lose our jobs or if we get sick. It's a wonderful benevolent society. I think this is the big society that they're talking about, but this wonderful society that we were baited with, and maybe it looked like it worked, when we were first offered it and we first started using it. Yeah, it seemed very nice indeed, but very slowly, boiling frog style, it's been withdrawn from us. And when you've been used to, been conditioned into expecting these things, and they're slowly being withdrawn from you, it seems human nature in this case is to hang on to what you've got, keep your head down, and hope that it's not going to affect you, and you'll be okay. But you're not going to be okay. They've started with the fringes of society, and by withdrawing the benefits from the fringes of society, the majority of people don't think it's going to affect them. Now, obviously, it's not affecting them to start with. So if you're not disabled, if you're not an old age pensioner, these things aren't affecting you. If you're not on benefits, oh no, it's all right. It's just those benefits people. But very slowly, very quietly, it is starting to affect everyone. So we do have a choice. We can ride this thing until it ends, until you hear that knock on the door, and they come for you, or you can stand up and do something about it. The choice here is whether you're going to exercise your courage or not. Collectively, as a society, we've got to relearn courage. The banks and the monetary system have been like training wheels for us, stabilizers. It's time that we rode our bike without the training wheels. If we had to do without the system, if something happened, something serious happened, and the system just ended tomorrow, we would have to find a way to live without the system. And we would find a way to live without the system. I'm not saying it will be easy to start with. There'll always be a very painful transition period, but we would find a way to live without the system. That's what we do. We adapt. That's how we've got to the position we're in at the moment. We adapt to situations. So why don't we pretend we have to? Why don't we just have to change the way we live? David Icke. Now, I think I have my own ideas of who and what David Icke is, but he makes a very good point that as a herd, we can be controlled, moved around, and picked off, and that's how they've kept us as a herd, thinking and moving together as this big herd of dumb animals, basically. But if we decided to be individuals and follow our own path, then that control is impossible. And he makes reference to a story about how 2 pigs escaped on the way to the abattoir, and it basically took an army of animal handlers and RSPCA and abattoir staff and police with dogs to hunt them down, and they got the nicknames Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Pig, and they were on the run for 8 days, and at the end they actually ended up escaping becoming pork chops because they'd become celebrities. And I think the film was called The Legend of the Tamworth 2, and they basically ended up living out their lives in an animal sanctuary. But this is the point. The rest of the herd, well, they became pork sausages. But there were two that took a chance, and they made a run for it, and they escaped their fate. And that brings me to something that Terence McKenna once said, and I'll be playing my favourite Terence McKenna clip at the end of this. But he said, "Nature loves courage." So if two pigs can decide to do their own thing, and it took the establishment 8 days to stop them, and yet they still managed to escape their fate. Imagine 60 million people doing the same thing. 60 million people doing their thing. The establishment couldn't cope with that. The establishment would end. Everyday courage has few witnesses, but yours is no less noble, because no drum beats for you, and no crowd shout your name. That was a quote from Robert Louis Stevenson. Everyday courage has few witnesses, but yours is no less noble, because no drum beats for you, and no crowd shout your name. Everyday courage is being displayed in places like Taksim Square in Turkey, and Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, and countless other places in the world. We've got to the point in this lifetime, this life that we're living right now, where life is very comfortable, it's very convenient, but it's not always been that way. In previous ages, we would have had to fight wars. We would have had to, when I say fight wars, I don't mean the wholesale slaughter that passes for war in this day and age, but we would have had to fight wars with swords and spears and whatever we can pick up, and in order to defend literally defend our families, defend our land, defend our way of life directly against somebody who was coming on our land to try and kill us. Yeah, we would have had to risk our lives to defend what we had. These days, I'm seeing it all over YouTube, especially, where things happen in front of us that we wouldn't stand for. We can't stand for. Somewhere inside us, we don't want to stand for it, but yet we stand by and video it. In previous ages, and don't think for 1 minute that you weren't around in those previous ages. And it's it's no longer hippie talk to say that. Well, you were there. You lived in those previous ages, and you experienced these things. But now we've been softened. We've been controlled and brainwashed and manipulated into being these weak creatures who don't live life anymore, but we watch it. And we think the best thing we can do is record something so that others can watch it. We don't take a part in life anymore. Everywhere around the world, we're seeing extraordinary acts of courage. People in Turkey and Brazil and other places around the world courageously standing up for their freedom, where mostly people in their own country aren't seeing it. In fact, here in Turkey, I think there's only one television station that's showing anything, or that was showing anything of the protests. All the others were not showing anything of it. They were showing football or the Turkish equivalent of X Factor or whatever. But most people in the country weren't seeing this, and yet you have thousands upon thousands of grandparents, students, housewives, taking to the streets, risking injury, tear gas, water cannons, and not just water cannons. It's revealed that the water cannons were being dosed with corrosive chemicals. So I mean, the water cannons are devastating enough. If you get hit with a water cannon, you're not standing up. You're being pushed over and bashed against the walls and pavements and stuff. But to add insult to injury, they put corrosive chemicals in there to burn your skin. So people are risking that, and tear gas and rubber bullets and steel batons. They're risking their lives because they realise that their lives mean something. They can't be content with being watchers of life. And that realisation comes with risks. We've been raised in a culture of safety and fear. As children, we're shielded from any risks whatsoever. Health and safety. That's the purpose of health and safety. We've had this idea of health and safety drummed into our heads over the last 20 or 30 years. Oh, yeah, you must have a fence by that dangerous drop, otherwise somebody might fall over it. Well, only pretty stupid people will fall over it, and if they survive it, then they've learned a valuable lesson. That's the point. So, being raised as people shielded from risks, the point is we never face fear. We never push our limits. And so we never find out that we have no limits. And everything in our culture is pumping fear into us. I've mentioned this before when I talked about television. Television is designed not only to program us, but it's there to pump fear into us continuously. Even when you're looking at something that seems innocuous. It's been shown now that even the most innocuous images you see on TV have been spiked with subliminal messages. Things like hidden skulls, skull and crossbones and things, images of death that you don't see consciously, but your subconscious sees them. And your subconscious causes your body to react to this stimuli. So you're always, if you watch television all the time and you read the newspaper and you listen to the radio and things like that, you're always in a state of fear, constant low-level fear and stress. So when you're raised to not face fear, then you become essentially a coward. You become scared of taking risks, scared of pretty much anything, because you are at this low level of fear that's always there, and it's always being poked at and prodded with, while you're watching television. If you imagine, especially if you watch an action adventure film. Now most people have seen it. Have watched an action film and found that they're really getting into the film and their pulse is racing. They might find their palms are clammy or whatever, because the film is so exciting. Well, that's because your body is experiencing the fear and the stress that's going on screen. Your subconscious doesn't know that you're not experiencing those things. So in actual fact, you are experiencing those things. So you are in fear, even though you don't think you are, even though your conscious mind says to you, well, no, you're just sitting in your chair. You're all right. Don't worry. It's only happening on the TV. Your subconscious doesn't know that. And your body is reacting to your subconscious, not your conscious mind. So in that regard, we've been turned into cowards. So I have something that you need to know. I've got a message for you right now. Okay, you ready for it? You're going to die. You are going to die. At some point, at some point you are going to die. It could be 50 years from now. It could be in 5 minutes. You don't know, but you are going to die. This is the secret that they've been trying to not hide from you. I guess hide in plain sight, but been trying to keep you away from this idea that you're going to die, and they've made it frightening, and it's a terrible thing. You are going to die, but you are. Everybody is, and nobody knows when it's going to be. So when you're pumped up with fear, and you know you don't want to die, you're not going to do anything. The point is that you're born into this life with nothing. You come in with nothing. Nothing you do here means anything. Nothing is permanent. You could in your lifetime build a massive castle, but in 1,000 years, in 10,000 years, that castle won't be there anymore. I'm not sure if I've said this before on a previous broadcast. I read a story about a guy who was driving past his old neighbourhood and decided to stop by and see where he grew up. He thought of himself as a bit of a tearaway, and he felt sure that he'd left a mark on his old community. And he went back to his old street and to his old house, and found that his neighbours were still there, and one or two of the neighbours remembered him. Just had to be prompted, but they remembered him, and it dawned on him that whereas his neighbourhood had made a strong impression on him, he hadn't made an impression on his neighbourhood. Eventually, his neighbours would move away or die or whatever, and all memory of him would have gone from that place. So this is it. Nothing you do here, will be permanent. Nothing lasts. The only thing that makes any difference here, the only thing that's important, is what you do with your life, how you react to the circumstances that are presented to you. How are you going to act when, as this control grid is tightened around us? Yeah, this is the thing. This is the thing that's being kept away from us right now, with all this fear, with all this health and safety. We're not allowing ourselves to be ourselves. We're just allowing ourselves to be watchers of society, watchers of life, letting life pass us by. We watch television. It's kind of crazy, we use up our real lives watching pretend people living pretend lives, and in so doing we let our real lives just slip away. Society is trying its hardest to make our lives end sooner rather than later. Even the people who don't believe in any of the conspiracy theories or whatever, they must be able to see now that there are poisons in our food, there are poisons in the water. The medicines aren't doing anything for us. Vaccines don't work. Doctors aren't helping us. If you go into a hospital, you risk coming out with more wrong with you than when you went in, or you risk even not coming out of them. This civilization that we've found ourselves in is killing us softly while pretending to help us. When I was in college, sometimes I used to bunk off and go to the arcade. I was in college in Southend near the seafront, so I used to bunk off and go to the arcade occasionally and play my favourite video game. It was called Defender. If anyone's ever played, it's a little spaceship and you go around and you pick up people, and one of the things you have is this idea of smart bombs, which if you've got lots of enemies on screen, you could hit this smart bomb and all of them get destroyed, and you can fight on. You can live to fight on. Now, the thing that I used to hate happen is to lose all my lives playing Defender, and not use up all my smart bombs. It means that I've wasted my game, because I could have used those smart bombs and carried on. Do you really want to exist in this life in fear and utter safety, so that you can die safely on your bed? Or do you want to live your life boldly and die having used all your smart bombs? That's that's the way I see it. There's a war going on outside your door, and it's against you. It's against you, your family, your friends, your neighbours, and we all know it at some level or other. It's too in our faces not to see it anymore. And we all do have a choice. You can ignore it and do the emotional equivalent of hiding under your bed while you anaesthetise yourself in, working 70 hours a week, doing something that's utterly meaningless, and shopping to buy stuff that makes yourself feel worthwhile or important or fulfilled, which it doesn't really, never does. And use up the rest of your time, in a synthetic video game reality, or watching people pretend to live pretend lives on a glowing screen. Is this what you want to do? Hide under your bed until that day when your door is kicked in and they come for you? Well, there is another choice. Oh, there are several choices actually, and another choice that most people seem to have is this. It's the exercising this belief that there is nothing that you can do about it. Well, I'm not somebody who advocates violence. I don't believe that's the way. Besides, they're ready for that. This is why they are jeering at us. This is why they're pushing us with all these things, bedroom tax and council tax, and they're withdrawing the safety net from under us, and then withdrawing the jobs that are keeping us out of the out of the fire, and laughing at us while they're doing it. Violence isn't the way, because and it is the reason why they're jeering at us. They're provoking us to make us angry, make us violent. They've shown us lots of images of people reacting to what we're feeling in a violent way, with protests, with destruction of property. That isn't the way. They want us to do that so they can crack down on us. That isn't the way. The way to stand up to this is to change yourself. I think it's Alan Watts who said that you cannot fix your hair by combing the mirror. You can't change things out there. Essentially, going into the holographic universe type view of it, there is no out there. There is only inside you. Yeah? And you have to change yourself. You can't change anything out there. You can't change the reflection. And everything out there is a reflection of yourself. And we have to start taking responsibility for that. Everything out there, everything we're seeing outside of ourselves is a reflection of who we are. And we have to change who we are. And said, what matters in this world, the only thing that matters is what we do, how we react to situations as they're presented to us, and how we will decide to experience it. There is no need for fear. Fear is only there to impose those limits on us. There is no such thing as good or bad. They're just human labels on varying degrees of experience. I'm doing a lot of quoting actually today. I don't know. I keep finding things to quote about. But there's an old Taoist story of an old farmer who had worked his crops for many years, and one day his horse ran away, and upon hearing the news, his neighbours came over to visit and said, "Oh, that's really, really bad luck," they said. And the farmer said, "We'll see." And the next morning the horse returned, bringing with it 3 other wild horses. "How wonderful!" the neighbours cried. "We'll see," said the old man. Following day, the man's son tried to ride one of the untamed horses, was thrown and broke his leg. The neighbours came round to offer their sympathy, and the farmer said, "We'll see." The day after that, the military officials came to the village to draft the young men into the army. Seeing that the son's leg was broken, they passed him by, and the neighbours came out and congratulated the farmers on how well things had turned out. "We'll see," said the farmer. So life flows. Life flows, and whatever you think will be a bad thing, you never know how it's going to turn out, how it's going to play out in this game that we're playing, this flow that we're in. We're not this static thing. We're not in this static life. We can change this life at any moment we want, but we need the courage to do that. A game isn't worthwhile or isn't fun if it's all ladders and no snakes. There has to be bad, there has to be good. There has to be things to fear. But we're here to overcome that fear. A change is coming. A change is definitely coming. We all can see it. As I say, even the most asleep person can see that this change is coming. Civilization, I think, will disappear, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think we've been brainwashed into believing that civilization is a good thing. Civilization essentially is the Catholic Church forcing itself onto lifestyles that have thrived for millions of years. I say millions of years, I don't say that by accident. Communities and peoples that have lived well for millions of years were set upon by missionaries bringing civilization to them, and the only thing that's really been brought to them is poverty, strife, fear, pain, you name it, the worst of the worst. And just because our short, brutal lives, and that's what they are, they're short and brutal, despite what the civilizers have told us, our lives aren't the longest they've ever been. It's quite funny when you think about it. They don't say that our lifespans have improved. They say our life expectancy has improved. Think about that for a second. Our lifespans haven't improved. At the end of the 19th century, in America, there was a study done, and they found that there were something like 4,000 centenarians, people who lived to over 100. And then 50 years later, when the population had doubled, the number of centenarians had halved. So that's one of the things that's showing us that our lifespans are being shortened. And I could talk a hell of a lot more about that topic, because as I've said to many people, that I'm reading some very old books at the moment, and they're opening my eyes to some amazing truths that we're not privy to, that we've been lied to about. And the point is that civilization is bad for us. You know, this herding together in these massive cities, and they are massive. I mean, I don't even know how many people are in living together in London now. It's got to be sort of something like 8 million or something. But having 8 million people crowded together in these dirty, smelly these cities is not good for us. One of the things that we overlook in our health is the effect that bad air, has on us. Now, the air that we breathe, the active part of it is oxygen, obviously. And apart from the fact that our oxygen levels have declined over the last few hundred years, mainly due to our good friends, the elite class and their corporations, deforesting the planet for us. Apart from that, the quality of our air determines the quality of our health. And it's kind of explained in a number of experiments that were done. And I'm trying to explain this experiment they did with a bird that they put in a bell jar. Now, this bell jar was able to sustain this bird for 3 hours. So it had 3 hours worth of air in this bell jar. Now, after 2 hours, they took this bird out. Now, obviously, the bird could live in that air for another hour. The interesting thing was that if you put a healthy bird, a normal bird, into that 2-hour-old air, that bird would die immediately. In an environment that a bird that was become accustomed to it would be able to live in for another hour. So another thing, if you were able to keep that air at the 2-hour level of toxicity, that original bird will be able to live on for, say, another 5 years perhaps. If that bird's natural lifespan was 10 years, it might be able to live in that hostile environment for another 5 years perhaps. So what that's telling us is that the quality of our air, and in this case it was the fact that we're breathing out, our lungs are a way of excreting toxins from our body. So it's not just carbon dioxide we're breathing out toxins that our body's trying to get rid of. So our bodies can get used to increasing levels of toxicity at the expense of our lifespan. And that's what we're living in. When we're crowded together and herded together in these cities, we're being increasingly toxified. And our lifespans are shrinking, as a result of this. One of the stories I found this week was one of how in America, it's Agenda 21 is coming out, is almost out in the open now. I'm trying to find it. Oh yeah, here it is. The story was the Obama administration plans to force Americans to move into the cities to redistribute the wealth. So this is it. This is Agenda 21 now out in the open. And they're using this idea that, for economic reasons, which is the excuse now for everything, for economic reasons, it's best to move everybody into the cities because, well, we can't maintain the infrastructure for these outlying suburbs and rural areas. So, best thing to do is everybody move into the cities, ignoring the fact that the plans, the agenda for this has been there for decades, for actual decades. But then, here again, I'm preaching to the converted here. I think most of us know that this is the agenda to rewild the planet and keep us in these mega cities huddled together and having these short, brutal lives. But the other option we have to this control grid that's around us is to have the courage to do what we're here to do what those pigs did and go our own way. As Paula just said in a chat box, all these bad things we consider bad, all these terrible things are going to occur if we don't do something about it. And it's not, as I said, it's not taking to the streets. That, in my opinion, is good to highlight what the issues are, to show people that that it's not just them that doesn't like this. It's not just them who feels this way. That's the only good thing about these protests. What needs to happen is that we change ourselves. And again, I'm going to go back onto the thing that I always say. It's us taking responsibility for our lives and deciding to do what it is we're here to do. We're not here to work 9-to-5 jobs, making widgets or filing paperwork or doing any number of meaningless things. And they are all meaningless. Even if you think your job has some merit, some higher purpose to it, that purpose has been hijacked long ago. It's been hijacked and redirected into hurting people, into working for the agenda. If you're a doctor, you're not a doctor anymore. You're a drug pusher, pushing poisons to kill people slowly. If you're a police officer, or especially a police constable, you're not there to uphold the law. You're not there to help people. It should be obvious even to the police now that they're not there to do that. They're there to enforce the rules, enforce the rule set of this criminal elite, to keep them safe, to protect their interests and their corporations. Even the police must be starting to see that even their livelihoods are under attack now. Now that it's out in the open that they're there to protect the corporations, now the corporations are starting to take over that job too. G4S and Serco, they're positioned now and started taking over. I think it's Lincolnshire Police that are owned by G4S. Well, it's not long now before the corporations start very slowly taking over. But they'll come in with perhaps they'll take over the civilian staff, and then I say start taking over. Lincolnshire has been taken over by G4S. Devon and Cornwall has been taken over by IBM. This has happened. It is happening now. So instead of this pretense of police constables who have a duty of care and job to serve and protect, we have corporations protecting corporations and enforcing corporate rules. It's becoming obvious now. So we have to make the change in ourselves. We have to start turning away from this system, deciding that none of the benefits of the system are benefits to us. They might seem like benefits and be very convenient, and some might make our lives seem easier and safer, but that isn't helping us. That isn't helping us. Our lives are too convenient. Our lives are too safe. And I don't mean safe as in we should be exposing ourselves to danger, but we shouldn't be afraid of it either. We shouldn't be afraid. And if anything is making you frightened, we should be facing it. We should be looking at it and examining it and approaching it and testing it. So we should be looking at these fears and overcoming them, because that is partially what we're here to do. We're given situations. Well, I say we're given from my spiritual type point of view. It's you who's giving you these situations to deal with. Your universe, the one that you inhabit, is your universe. It is all about you. You are the central player. You are the only real player. You're the one that's important in this. It's like playing Call of Duty. The character on screen in Call of Duty or any of these first-person shoot-em-ups or whatever, that whole universe is being generated for that character. And you are playing that character. Okay? Everything that character sees is for them. There is nothing there that can hurt you. There's nothing there that you should be afraid of. Because it's your universe, and you're presenting these things for you to overcome. And while you waste your life living it vicariously through the television and through video games or any of the limitless number of distractions this world has presented you with to keep you from keep you from living your life, you will not live your life. So we've got to start making that change in ourselves. We've got to start looking at what it is we're doing day to day. Is this what you're here to do? Are you fulfilled by doing that 9-to-5 job? If you're on the dole and not doing anything, is that what you're here to do as well? I mean, the only reason I think that people on the dole are not doing things, feel paralyzed, is because this whole system has told them that if they're not out there earning money, they're worthless. Money has become the only measure of value there is. Whereas everyone on this planet has unique skills, a unique perspective, something they can do that nobody else can do, something that they can see that nobody else can see. And it's about finding that. And as I said, we've been led away from that path of self-discovery because of all these things that we have to do. We supposedly have to do. The society has given us these things that we have to do. And one thing leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. Yeah, we have to put food on the table, so we have to have money, so we have to go to work, and we have to have a car, so we have to pay tax and insurance, and we have to have more money, so we may have to work more, so on and so on and so on, and you get caught in this web of things that you have to do, and you never get anywhere. And if you live your entire life in this web, you'll look back on that life and realise that you actually haven't lived. And this is what this system is all about. It's about keeping you in this web. And it's time that we see the web for what it is and break out of it. And how do you break out of it? Well, first of all, if you can do without, if you can look around your house, and see what it is that you can do without. What are the things that you don't need in your life? What are the things around you that are hurting you? I mean, you have to start looking at every little thing. If you've got a microwave in your house, find out about it. What is it? What is that microwave actually doing? If you do some research and look at these things critically, you'll find that the microwave again is a device that, yes, it might seem that it's nice and convenient, but it's actually another thing that's slowly killing you. Look at the food you're eating. Is it helping you? Look at your waistline. Look at your health. Is this food helping you? Look at every aspect of your life. Tug at it. Examine it. Don't be afraid of it. And make changes. If you really critically look at how your life is unfolding, you will see that the system is not allowing you to live. Is not allowing you to be you. It's time that you started being you, or at least finding out who you are. And again, this society, this system, is about hiding who you are from you. At the end of the day, it is a game. It's a game that you've decided to play. So start playing it. Start playing it properly. Every time you use the system to its fullest, you'll find that you're hurting somebody. And a lot of the time, it's not only hurting you, but it's hurting your family. If you're trying to get more pay at work, and you're working harder and harder and harder, okay, who's damaged there? While you think you're doing the best for your family, who's actually being damaged? Well, actually, it's you and your family. Your family isn't seeing very much of you while you're working your ass off to get more money, and your family is being damaged. Everything you do in this system means sacrifice somewhere along the line. Everything that you think you're doing that's is helping is hurting someone somewhere along the line. I can only talk about some of the changes that I've made in my life, and there are some talks on YouTube about this as well. One of them's called My Spiritual Journey, and unfortunately, it's an hour and a half talk, but the last half hour was the guy ran out of space on his camera, and so he basically just recorded the end bit and tacked it on sort of an hour through the talk. But anyway, I can only talk about what I've found when I've actually stepped back and done this. I started looking at my health and started looking at what caused my bad health, because I'd also fooled myself into believing that I was actually healthy. And we do that without thinking about it. I'd ripped my Achilles tendon about 4 years ago playing football, and after I had an operation, I'd end up with a massive scar down the back of my heel, which was quite painful. It was one of those dull, throbbing aches that was there all the time. And I also had nerve damage along one side of my foot, so that if I'd walked 100 yards, maybe 10 times in that 100 yards, I'd get a stab of very painful pins and needles. So what had happened was I went on a fast, and a few days into the fast, I'd realised that this pain and this nerve damage that had been with me for 4 years had disappeared. But the other realisation there was that I had not even noticed that pain and the nerve damage. It had become part of me. And I'd fooled myself into believing that I was completely healthy because I discounted that pain that had now become a part of me. And we do that all the time. There are things that are badly wrong with us, but we just accept them as part of us. And we've accepted that ill health is actually a measure of health. And it's not until those problems, those illnesses and whatever, taken away from you that you realise how sick you were in the first place. So I started looking at what I was eating. I started looking at what my response to any symptoms I was getting, which obviously, like most people was let's go to the doctor. Let's start popping pills and having injections and all sorts of things. I started to look at that and realise that, well, you know what? No, these aren't the way I want to deal with these things. I realised that the cause of most of the problems that I was suffering with and facing was the food I was eating. So I changed my diet completely. I also realised that the medical profession wasn't working for me. So I decided to take matters into my own hands, and I researched how to make myself better. And I have. I'm not going to go into the therapies again because I guess most people who are listening probably already know what therapies I've been using. But I started some therapies and I saw my health turn around completely. I looked at where I was living and how I was living and how the house that I was living in wasn't really a healthy place for me to be, because I found myself more out of the house, and at the time I was going to a lot of festivals and spending my time out of the house and out in nature, and I found that actually I feel better. I feel better about where I was. I felt better about myself. I felt healthier. I felt more alive out in nature than I did within 4 plasterboard walls. And I decided that, well, I'm not going to live in 4 walls anymore. And I changed that. I also decided that I'm not going to be part of the system. I'm going to not use the system as much as possible. I don't use benefits. And I decided I'm not going to work anymore. And once you decide things like that, you realise that a whole lot of things fall away. A lot of stresses and problems just fall away from you. Now, one of the main stresses that people would think they would have if they were to abandon their job and abandon their house and things like that is money. Oh, what am I going to do without money? That sounds like it's going to be very stressful. But the surprise is that the universe looks after you. Well, obviously it does, because the universe is about you. And since you're the main, the player, the main event, the universe will look after you. We need the courage to make these changes. It is very scary to leave your home and change your way of life completely. But as Terence McKenna says, when you make the leap, because that's what the courage is there for, that's what the courage does, it allows you to make that leap into the unknown. When you make that leap, you'll find that there's a feather bed waiting for you. It isn't this scary thing full of stress, full of problems waiting for you. It's a feather bed. In my case, I was due to leave my house on the Monday morning. No, I think it was actually a Sunday night. That was my last day in my house. I had no idea and this was a Friday, I had no idea on the Friday where I was going to go after Sunday night. And normally I'd be panicking. I'd be like, well, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? But I thought, I don't have to leave until Sunday. Something will come up. I'll decide on Sunday where I go on the day. So I didn't worry about it. Later on that day, I got a phone call from a friend saying, "Oh, we're having a gathering over this weekend. Yeah, long weekend. So do you want to come along?" I said, "Oh, okay." And there it was. I knew where I was going first, and that's how it's been working so far. It's like a scavenger hunt, or it's like you go off on a direction, and you'll get further instructions as you get there. And so far it's been I think it's been like 4 months now, and it's been like that. The universe has been not only nudging me in certain directions, but it's been providing for me. And here I am. I'm living a very stress-free lifestyle now. And yeah, sometimes I do get twinges of, I wonder what's going to happen. What's going to happen? I don't know, but they're only twinges, and they're getting fewer and fewer, and further apart. And some might have seen the video I posted a few weeks ago. I literally set out with a video camera. I didn't know what I was going to do. I just took the video camera, I brought a sketch pad with me, and I just started walking across fields. And the feeling that I got just walking across these fields and stopping and listening to nature and just being there was just overwhelming. I felt I just had to make a video about it. I mean, this is Dave in the 21st century. There's YouTube and all that. Oh, I've got to make a video. So to express myself there, I had to make a video, and it was, I didn't know what I was making. I started off going off and retracing my steps, and filming myself walking through the countryside, and I filmed myself meditating at one point, and when I got to the end of my walk, which was a beautiful spot, the sheer beauty of it didn't translate over a video camera, but it was a breathtaking beauty. I just felt I had to say something about it. So again, I don't know why I did the video, but it was because I felt so overwhelmed by being out there. And this isn't a feeling that you can get within so-called civilization. And there's so much more out there than you can possibly imagine. But the system is making you afraid to find out, making you afraid to take that risk. That's why you weren't allowed to take risks at school. So you'd be too scared to take them when you became an adult. So again, it's time, I think, for us all to take risks, for us all to go our own way, become like the pigs who escaped the abattoir. It is time that we took risks, time that we found that courage within us, because it's still in there somewhere. Through all the conditioning that we've been given, it's still in there. So please try and find it, and you will be rewarded. You'll be rewarded beyond your imagination, and you'll be able to find the real you, and you'll be able to find what you're here to do. So to end this, I'm just going to play. It's only for a few minutes. It's a little speech by Terence McKenna.
There is a sort of fair play. You've been told from the cradle that the deck was stacked against you. Fall of man, original sin, so forth and so on. It's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. There is a sort of fair play. And if you can get in touch with that in your life, when Muhammad wouldn't come to the mountain, The mountain came to Muhammad. That's fair play. And if you can have that perception, the world will begin to work for you. It will begin to move toward you as the mountain moved toward Muhammad. The mushroom said to me once, nature loves courage. Nature loves courage. And I said, what's the payoff on that? And it said, it shows you that it loves courage because it will remove obstacles. You make the commitment, and nature will respond to that commitment by removing impossible obstacles. Dream the impossible dream, and the world will not grind you under. It will lift you up. This is the trick. This is what all these teachers and philosophers who really counted, who really touched the alchemical gold, this is what they understood. This is the shamanic dance in the waterfall. This is how magic is done. It's done by hurling yourself into the abyss and discovering that it's a feather bed. And there's no other way to do it. This is why I have always taken the position that as modern people, we can't go out and set armies marching or launch religions, and who would want to anyhow. But to the people who say adventure has fled, it's all humdrum, I just know, that they have forgotten the 5 grams of psilocybin sitting in their refrigerator. I mean, Magellan may have had excitement rounding the horn, but you in your living room later tonight can put him in the shade if you have the courage to do the things that are necessary to do. And we know what they are. And of course, the first thing to do is to tell society to fuck off, because they don't know what's going on.
I just love that. I don't know, this talk with Terence McKenna, I was doing the Afternoon with Terence show every weekday, and one day I heard the full version of that talk, and that little section came up, and I think more than anything that inspired me. That inspired me to take the leap, and I'd listen to what you just heard. I'd listen to that over and over again. I know it sounds silly, but I think the first time I heard it, heard that particular version, I had tears in my eyes, because that to me was the answer. That to me was the answer. That I needed to get up the courage to hurl myself off the precipice and see what's out there. And for me, it took me a long time to do that, because I kept putting it off and kept finding reasons why not to, and the universe kept nudging me and telling me, oh, go on, you gotta leave, you gotta walk, gotta get out there. And I kept saying, well, yeah, I'll give it another month, and maybe I'll figure out a way. But then the universe gave me a kick up the bum, and that's when I somehow found the courage to take that leap. And so far, it's been a feather bed. Thanks for listening.